The second complaint was that Fateh didn't respond when his brother-in-law, Musa Muhammad, was convicted of lying to a federal grand jury about ballots he turned in on behalf of other voters in 2020 without their permission.
So based on the advice of my lawyer, I'm again going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer.
Dawson Kimian was Fateh's campaign manager, but took the Fifth Amendment repeatedly when asked about the campaign. Eventually, the panel dropped the second complaint, finding no evidence that Fateh knew about the ballot situation.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure that you're following me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, we have to head on over to Minneapolis. Why is that? Because it appears that we have another Zohran Mamdani that's popping up over there and is running for mayor, right? But before we dive too deep into him and unpack who this guy is and what he's about, and if I remember his name correctly, it is Omar Fateh. What I want to do first is highlight this article here, because it's important for us to see, recognize, and understand that AOCism appears to be completely taking over the Democrat Party, right? I would say slowly, but really it's kind of rapidly with the rise of Zohran Mamdani. Obviously, you have the old school Democrat Socialists. They're considered old school, I guess, now, like AOC. But now we also have the rise of, or what appears to be the rise of, in Minneapolis, Omar Fateh, right, who we'll get into in just a moment. But I want to stay here for a minute, right? Let's look at this article here concerning the rise of what I call AOCism. Shout out to my man in the comment section who gave me that term. Mamdani's far left allies aim to primary Hakeem Jeffries and other New York City House Democrats. You see this here? The people that are representing the Democrat Party now in the House from New York are not radical enough. And it appears that now they're trying to get the Hakeem Jeffries of the parties out of position to be replaced with more Zohran Mamdanis and other AOC Democrats. Let's unpack this article here. I just want to read a couple of sentences for you, and then we'll move on to our man, the new man on the scene, Omar Fateh. But let me take a moment to scroll down here. So, Zohran Mamdani's Democratic Socialist allies may be eyeing primary challenges next year against some congressional Democrats in New York City, including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. In the wake of Mamdani's primary victory last month, the Democratic Socialist of America highlighted that this movement is bigger than one person, election, city, or organization. Remember that, because we're going to come back to that statement here. The article continues to read, Jeffries, who 2 years ago succeeded longtime House Democrat leader and former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, has been criticized by some of New York City's far left leaders as a moderate and establishment Democrat, which he is. I wouldn't say moderate, but he's definitely an establishment Democrat at this point compared to how radical left that the Democrat Party is going. And I quote, his leadership has left a vacuum that organizations like DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, are filling. I think that is more important right now. New York City's Democrat Socialists of America chapter co-chair Gustavo Gordillo told CNN. The article continues to read as we round this out. Democratic strategist Andre Richardson, a top Jeffries political advisor, warned in a statement, and this is a strong warning to CNN, that if those on the left mount a primary challenge against Jeffries, quote, our response will be forceful and unrelenting. We will teach them and all of their incumbents a painful lesson on June 23rd, 2026. So that is a strong warning coming from Hakeem Jeffries' top advisor. I want to read that again. He said, our response to the Zohran Mamdanis and the Democrat Socialists of the party, the AOCs of the party, our response to any of you who think that you're going to primary me or any of the establishment Democrats will be a forceful and unrelenting response. We will teach them and all of their incumbents a painful lesson on June 23rd, 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democrat Party is collapsing, completely collapsing right in front of our very eyes. And now the next man up, right? I want to come back to what I had highlighted in purple here, because they're telling the truth. Mamdani is telling the truth. Once again, in the wake of Mamdani's primary victory last month, the Democratic Socialists of America highlighted that, and I quote, "This movement is bigger than one person, election, city, or organization." And with that, in comes Omar Fateh, who is running for Minneapolis mayor. So let's get into who our man Omar Fateh is next. Omar Fateh, the next Zohran Mamdani, running for mayor of Minneapolis. Fateh, who once accused Representative Lauren Boebert of white supremacy for opposing taxpayer-funded college for illegal aliens, is running for mayor of Minneapolis. He has advanced far left legislation, including a proposal to provide free college tuitions to households earning under $80,000 a year, regardless of their documentation status, which he defended as necessary to expand opportunity for all Minnesotans. This also encourages and becomes a magnet for illegal immigration. And that's why this stuff needs to stop. Because when you have legislation like this on the books, why wouldn't people break their necks to come over here and to just flood the country, regardless of whatever negative effects it may have to certain American citizens? That's irrelevant. They look at it as we're getting in where we fit in. And if you can't fit in as an American citizen, well, that's your problem. I guess you need to leave the Democrat state or city that you're in. And I guess to some degree, they're right about that, right? They're right about that to a degree. Not that I agree with them, but I understand the mind state, right? You get in where you fit in. So folks like us have to be very vigilant on being against this kind of foolishness, because once again, this is a magnet. This is a magnet for more illegal immigration. When you know you could just cross the border and head straight on to Minneapolis and get free education, free college, free everything across the board. The illegal immigration never stops. But for me to be in opposition to what Omar Fateh is saying right now means that I guess I'm in line with white supremacy, because I want to go to this tweet here that was referenced by the Breitbart article. Look at this here. This was Omar Fateh back in June of 2023, quote retweeting or reposting the Lauren Boebert tweet where she said illegal aliens will not be eligible for free college tuition in the state of Minnesota. Right. And she goes on to say a couple of other things. As you can see here, Omar Fateh replied, "You're damn right, and not illegal aliens, but our neighbors. When you're not a white supremacist, you can see people for their humanity and not status. It is our duty to serve the needs of all Minnesotans." So, ladies and gentlemen, I guess to some degree, I must be an honorary white supremacist because I stand with Lauren Boebert on this one. I definitely stand with her on this one. And funny enough, I remember pre-election, I remember, what's her name again? She fell off and got fired from MSNBC, and I already forgot who she is. Joy Reid. Joy Reid, she made the statement that Black men who support Trump, we are white adjacent incels. I'm a white adjacent incel because I support Trump and I, back Trump and voted for Trump. So yeah, I guess I'm white supremacist, but this is just the logic right behind these folks. They reduced everything down to some sort of racism, white supremacy. And if you happen to be someone who's Black, who holds the same sentiment as a Lauren Boebert, well, now you're white adjacent. So go figure. I guess I'm an honorary white man, but I digress. Let's get back into the article. In a campaign video posted to X, Fateh unveiled a platform echoing New York-style socialism as he vowed to protect our city from a hostile White House and block local cooperation with federal immigration authorities. I want to get into this campaign video that they're referencing to right now. It's received 7.7 million views at this point. Let's take a moment to listen to what our man Omar Fateh is discussing. So I want to jump into this video clip next.
Everyone keeps asking me, Omar, why aren't you doing more videos? As a state senator with a second full-time job and a kid on the way, I just haven't been able to find the time. I've also been fighting for you, passing things like tuition-free college for working class families, rideshare protections for our Uber and Lyft drivers, and the legalization of fentanyl testing strips. But this summer, you're gonna be seeing a lot more of me because we deserve nice things in Minneapolis too. To make an affordable Minneapolis that works for everyone, we need a mayor that works as hard as you do. I'm ready to work hard too. 1, build a Minneapolis that working people can afford to call home. 2,
Pause. Let's start with number 1. Build a Minneapolis that working people can afford to call home. Understand, when you hear the term working people, that's code for illegal immigrant. That is a term that more or less was coined by Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, or as I like to call the emperor of the People's Republic of Chicago. This is something that I heard him say multiple times over and over at the beginning of Trump's term, when he was attempting to skirt around using the words illegal immigrant, illegal alien. They don't even like to say undocumented, right? So to mask that, what they do is that they say working people. We're going to protect working people in the city of Chicago, working people, working families. That's code for illegal immigrants, just so you understand moving forward whenever you hear that, right? So that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about the actual citizens of Minneapolis. He's talking about illegal immigrants.
to call home. 2, protect our city from a hostile White House. And 3,
Pause. Protect our city from a hostile White House. That's just rhetoric. He can't. First off, there's nothing to protect against, right? There's nothing for you to protect Minneapolis against as it pertains to the White House. The White House isn't being hostile. But let's just pretend and let's go on this kind of road that he's on, that we need to protect ourselves from this hostile White House because that White House is hostile. There is nothing that you can do. There's no legislation that you can pass that stops or blocks the White House from doing anything. Their greatest line of defense, as far as Democrats were concerned, were the injunctions, right, that were put on by the federal judges, that were typically Obama and Biden appointed, right, the district judges. So those national injunctions that essentially were, illegal in nature, the way in which they were using it, that was their greatest line of defense, if you want to look at it like that, against Trump's policies and what he wants to do, that which the American people voted for overwhelmingly. Funny enough, the people that always claim they're trying to save democracy are the ones that are standing in the way of it. But I don't want to get too far off topic. That was their greatest line of defense, was the national injunction. Once the national injunctions got taken away from them, that's why you heard them kicking and screaming. At that point, there's nothing you can do as the mayor of Minneapolis or the mayor of Chicago or the mayor of New York. So whenever you're hearing them say we're going to Trump-proof the city, that's actually a term that I first heard from Gavin Newsom upon Donald Trump's inauguration, I believe it was, or no, it might have been right after the election, but nonetheless, I heard that from Gavin Newsom. We're going to Trump-proof California. Once again, I don't want to belabor the point. It's just rhetoric. You're just talking. That doesn't mean anything, right? So you're running on smoke and mirrors at that point when you hear people say that. It's smoke and mirrors. When Gavin Newsom was saying that, he then equated Trump-proofing America to just having a certain amount of money set aside from the budget to essentially just sue the federal government, to sue Trump and to sue the federal government whenever they feel need be, to try to block whatever measures that are coming down the pipeline as it pertains to policy, right, coming in play from Trump. But outside of that, these lawsuits are typically almost always frivolous. They fall apart. It just kind of temporarily slows things down, but it doesn't stop anything. So once again, not to belabor the point too much, you guys get it. It's just rhetoric. He's running on smoke and mirrors. But carry on, Fateh. Carry on.
and 3, diversify our city's public safety response. By increasing the minimum wage to $20 by 2028 and passing rent stabilization to stop price gouging and incentivizing new construction, we can protect workers.
Stop. Let's talk about rent stabilization for a moment, right? I want to go back to that. Let's listen to that one more time, what he stated.
response. By increasing the minimum wage to $20 by 2028 and passing rent stabilization to stop price gouging.
First off, there's no price gouging going on as it pertains to rent. There's no price gouging, right? You're trying to keep up with inflation as it pertains to, maintenance that occurs in the building. I'll make it very simple for you, right? Matter of fact, I'm not going to make it very simple for you because I need to save it for another video. I need to save it because this isn't going to be my first video. I know I'm going to have more Omar Fateh videos in the future, so I'm going to save it for the next video. But I'm going to say this much. As it pertains to price gouging, follow me. I want to pull this up for you guys right now. So now, what is rent stabilization? Rent stabilization is just rent control in a nutshell. That's all it is rent control, right? Okay, so just ask the almighty Google now with the built-in AI, almighty artificial intelligence, what are the top 5 cities with the highest rent in the United States? And as you can clearly see here, the top 3 consist of New York City, New Jersey, and San Francisco. Those are the top 3. And it's rounded out with Boston and Miami. But let's stick with the top 3, right? Because we all know these are DNC cities: New York, New Jersey, and San Francisco. So does New York has rent stabilization, right? Rent control? Yes. Does Jersey City have rent control? Yes. Does San Francisco, the most expensive place you can live in the country, do they have rent control? Yes. Does it look like rent stabilization, rent control equates to lower cost of rent? Does that mean that it's going to stop so-called price gouging and that rent is going to stay at a reasonable level? No, that is not what that means at all whatsoever, just on the basis of what you're looking at right now. Out of the top 5 cities, the top 3 who have the most expensive rent that you can pay for a 1-bedroom apartment, right? New York, look at it. New York City consistently holds the top spot with a median 1-bedroom rent for around $4,500. That is criminal. I thought Los Angeles was bad, and it is. But $4,500 for a 1-bedroom, people need to go to jail behind that. That is completely criminal. And they have rent control. Okay? So my point is that this isn't about price gouging. It's about bad policy. It's about bad policy. That's why you see New York City, Jersey City, and San Francisco all being the top 3 cities with the most expensive rent that you could pay for a 1-bedroom apartment, yet they have rent control. I rest my case. Let's carry on what Mr. Fateh had to say.
2028 and passing rent stabilization to stop price gouging and incentivizing new construction, we can protect workers. Protecting all of our communities from Donald Trump means not letting MPD interact with ICE, whether it's for an immigration raid or not. Our residents deserve a mayor that will stand up to Donald Trump and say, no, not in our community. Did you know that the city's own data showed that 47% of calls to MPD can be diverted to non-police response? Cops aren't social workers. Investments in programs like these ensure that the appropriate response arrives when we call 911. And we can actually free up police resources to focus on violent crime that detracts from community safety. Oh, I'm sorry. It's my campaign managers again. They've been on my case all week about make more videos. I'll find the time tomorrow.
So that's our man, Omar Fateh, who's essentially like Zohran Mamdani and what Eric Adams explained, right? When he broke down Zohran Mamdani, Omar Fateh as well is not just so much so that he's a Democrat socialist, because he is, right? But he's running on smoke and mirrors, right? The majority of stuff that he's saying he's going to do, he can't do, just like Zohran Mamdani, as far as like the more radical socialist perspective. When you're talking about Trump proofing the city, there's no such thing as that. You can't do that, right? This is just a deranged obsession that they have with blaming everything on Trump. But you can't Trump proof the city. That's not a thing. Rent stabilization, we've already established that doesn't equate to lower rents, right? Because the top 3 cities with the highest rent all have rent control. So that does, when he's saying we're going to stop price gouging with rent stabilization, that's a lie. That's not how that works, right? It's not how that works. And what was his point? What was point number 1 again? Let's see. Point number 1. I should edit this part out, but I don't think I am. Where's point number 1? Lord have mercy. Oh, yeah. Build a Minneapolis that working people can afford to call home. He's talking about illegal immigrants, right? Because that's once again, coded language, working people. He's talking about illegal immigrants. So anyways, with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for today's news. Let me know what you guys think about our man, Omar Fateh. Excuse me, I don't want to be disrespectful. Omar Fateh. I'm curious about what you guys think in the comment section below. Like I said, this AOCism is spreading like wildfire throughout the Democrat Party. They're looking at unseating people or they're possibly looking to unseat people like Hakeem Jeffries and others who they deem not radical enough. There's another guy out of New York. I want to pull him up right now, actually, because he's on the chopping block as well. He's not considered radical enough. I've made reference to him before. He does have a little bit of common sense. He's one of the more reasonable Democrats, even though he's pretty far left himself. Here he goes right here. Representative Richie Torres is also on the chopping block. I believe Richie Torres was the first Black gay male to become a member of the House. He checks off all the boxes because he's half Black, I guess half Latino as well. So the first Black, gay, Hispanic, LGBTQ man to be in the House of Representatives. Nonetheless, he's on the chopping block as well. So there is a hostile takeover that's happening in this moment. We'll see how this all plays out. But once again, yeah, man. AOCism is spreading throughout the Democrat Party, and we'll see how it plays out. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you all for checking out today's video. That does it for today's news. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms, and please do not forget to follow me on Telegram. That is extremely important that you do that. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace, and have a great afternoon.